function, so that tells me that theta is equal to the inverse sine of 0.8, okay? But let's think about this a little bit. First of all, we know these basic trig equations have infinitely many solutions. And I want them all. And so just writing this, theta equal to the inverse sine of 0.8, well, that tells me something, but it doesn't tell me everything that I want to know. So let's go down here and let's think about this a little bit. Here we have my sine function. Try to make this as symmetric as I can. And I guess one more here. And then what do I have to do? I have to go out 3, 3, 3, 1 to here. Okay, so here's our sine function. Not bad. Here's pi, 2 pi, pi over 2, 3 pi over 2. And what do we know about the inverse sine? Well, we know that the inverse sine function, this inverse sine function, takes on values between what and what? It takes on values between pi over 2 and minus pi over 2. So in our case, our theta that we found here, I'm going to call this theta sub naught. Theta sub naught. Our theta sub naught is positive, okay? It's positive, and it lies between 0 and pi over 2. So we'll say maybe it's here. I don't know exactly where it's at. And then we have another solution. So here's y equal 0.8. So my graph is a little bit off here, but that's okay. Can live with that. So what we want to do is we want to find this other value over here. We'll call that theta sub 1, where the sine of theta sub 1 is equal to 0.8. Because we know that the sine of theta sub naught is 0.8. Well, what did I say? I said that the distance from here to here is equal to the distance from here to here. Okay, so that tells me that theta sub 1 is equal to pi minus theta sub naught, which is equal to pi minus the inverse sine of 0.8. Okay. So now what I have is I have two angles. I have theta sub naught and theta sub 1. These are two angles between 0 and 2 pi that solve our basic trig equation. The sine of theta sub naught is equal to 0.8, and the sine of theta sub 1 is equal to 0.8. So I know that all the solutions, so all solutions to the basic trig equation, sine theta equal 0.8, they're just given by theta sub naught plus 2 pi k and theta sub 1 plus 2 pi k, where k is an integer. Well, I can write this. I can write theta sub naught plus 2 pi k is equal to the inverse sine of 0.8 plus 2 pi k, and theta sub 1 plus 2 pi k is equal to pi minus the sine, the inverse sine of 0.8 plus 2 pi k. Okay. You can write it like that, okay? Now, look, if you're taking a test and you're not allowed to use a calculator, then these are your answers. That's all you can do with what you have available. So you would leave your solutions in this form. But if you have a calculator, if you're asked to do this problem at home or something like that, then what you can do is you can go to your calculator, make sure that the mode is set to radians. The mode is set to radians because we don't want our angles in degrees. In fact, when you study calculus, you're almost always going to use radians. So let's see, my calculator, the mode is set to radians. I'm going to plug in 0.8. I always get the wrong answer on these. And I'll take the inverse sine of that. So I find that the inverse sine of 0.8 on my calculator is 0.927. So it's approximately that. It keeps on going on. But all we want to do is approximate it. So you could say, okay, my answers, my solutions to the equation are 0.927. Remember, this is in radians. It better be in radians because I'm going to add to it 2 pi k, and this is certainly in radians. And then it's going to be pi minus 0.927 plus 2 pi k. So these are my solutions. All right. So that's what you do if you have a basic trig equation to solve and you don't have a calculator, then what you're going to do is you're going to use the inverse trig functions to express your solutions, all right? If you do have a calculator, then you can go a little bit further, and what you're doing is you're not giving an exact solution, you're giving an approximation, all right? So these are approximate solutions. Now, most of the problems that you encounter on quizzes and exams, they're going to give you angles whose sine or cosine you do know or you should know. Things that have a sine or a cosine of the square root of 2 over 2 or the square root of 3 over 2 or whatever. Okay? All right, we'll leave it there.